Pull this one over. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so routing, and this is to do with Pro Tools, but it really has to do with everything, okay? So basically what we're going to be talking about is using our aux tracks for send effects. That's the main thing. We kind of in the last video did cover about how the routing of the order of your plugins matters. You really need to dive deeper into that. We'll talk more about that. But, oh, you're welcome, T. So we really need to talk more about that at another point. But for now, let's just talk about the routing of stuff using our aux tracks and our sends and using send effects. Now, a send effect is a reverb or a delay. So let's go over here to I'm going to take my reverb, my delay off of this main track, because usually I don't put the reverb directly on the track itself. So we've got this sound here. Let's go ahead and turn this off. So
1, 2.
We've got our counting here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a stereo aux input here. And I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to give it a name reverb. Over here, boom, boom, sample tape. Okay, boom, there's that. There we go. And we have this here. And I'm going to go ahead on this aux track here. Now the aux track, let's call this like an aux return. It's like a return track for our reverb here. So let's give it a name actually, reverb, instead of calling it just reverb. Let's call it reverb return. Like this. So we have it down here, reverb return. And what this is going to do is it's basically going to hold our reverb on it. It's going to be our return track for our reverb. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to put a reverb on here. Any reverb will do. I'm going to stick to the Deverb that comes with Pro Tools out of the box natively. And then we're going to send the signal from my voice over here to this aux channel here. Now, how do we do that? Well, remember, on every track in Pro Tools, we have inputs and we have outputs. So we've also talked about setting up our destination first. So I'm going to set my destination first. My destination is this return track. I want to send the signal from over here on this audio channel here, my talking, to over here on this one here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on this bus input here. I'm going to go to bus 1 and 2, click on that. I'm going to set it to bus 1 and 2. Now, it doesn't matter which bus you set it to, it just has to be an unused bus. So in here, bus 1 and 2, there we go, bus 1 and 2, boom. Now I'm going to take this track that I want to send from, I want to send this track from this one, the audio from this one to this one over here. I'm going to go to my send up top. I'm going to click on the first one and I'm going to give it the same name. Now you'll see any destination, any input that says bus 1, 2, bus 3, bus 4, but whatever, it's going to be orange or this kind of yellowish color here. So I'm going to click on this one here to send it to that one I just made. Now, once I do that, it creates this weird, like floating fader. Not weird. It just creates this floating fader that's like a different window that floats around. Now, when I hit go on this and I talk,
1, 2,
as
3,
I turn
4,
this floating fader
5,
up,
6, 7, 8.
we're going to hear that reverb come in.
11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now, for people who are already used to Logic or Ableton Live, this is no different. The only difference is that the tracks that we're making in Ableton Live, in Logic, there's literally no difference except for just instead of being a knob like it is in Logic, it's this fader here. This fader is the same. So for example, like T, I know you're used to using Logic. So when you're sending stuff in Logic, you just go down to the send and you just send it to a bus 1 and 2. It automatically creates the aux channel for you. The only thing is in Pro Tools, we're actually making the aux channel ourselves, and then we've got our send right here. This is a send amount. It's not a knob, it's a fader, but it's the same exact thing. So let's just see that one more time. I'm gonna go back and do all this stuff again, maybe a couple more times. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make an aux channel. I can go up to track, new track, stereo, aux. Always, when you're making an aux channel, always make it stereo. I'm going to give it a name, reverb return. like this, boom, reverb return. And we got this here. Now I'm going to put a reverb on this reverb return track. Reverb right here, boom. And it automatically has the reverb. It has the reverb on it. Now I'm going to set up my inputs and my outputs. So my input for this reverb return track, I'm going to set it to bus 1 and 2, or 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. It doesn't matter. Here, let's set it to 15 and 16 for now. I'm going to set it to bus 15 and 16. And now on my send over here, I'm going to go click on the first one and go to bus, and we can see bus 15 and 16 is yellow or orange, whatever color that is. So I'm going to click on this, and it's going to pop up my fader here. If I hit play,
1, 2,
I turn this up.
4, 5, 6.
Now we can hear that reverb.
9, 10, 11, 12.
If I turn it down, we no longer hear the reverb.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4,
All right.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So now we can see how this works. I can just put this up and we hear the reverb.
1.
If I want to change my reverb, is the expression to remember IO ins over outs? Well, ins over outs is for your patch bay. The patch bay is ins over outs. We're going to talk about the patch bay more tomorrow, but this is just IO. The in is over the outs. And actually the outs over ins. And in patch bays, I think it's outs over ins. And now I'm like confused because I'm thinking about this other stuff. There's no real expression to remember for this stuff, AJ. It's not, because this is just, it's not about ins over outs or something like that. It's just you're sending an output to an input, and I think it's outs over ins. I think you made me confused there. I have to look it up, but it's outs go to ins. Your output is always going to go to your input, because you're thinking about this like it's a flow. We're flowing the audio through our system, so you can't, like, remember, an output is, it's going out of something. An input, it's going into something. So if we want to go from something to something else, yeah, outs over ins. So you're backwards about that, AJ. Sorry, you kind of threw me off there. Yeah, outs are on top, ins are on the bottom on the patch bay. But essentially, we're not talking about a patch bay here. This is not a patch bay. It's the only reason why it's even connected to a patch bay is because you're moving the signal around, but it's not a patch bay. So outs over ins is not, we don't need to worry about it. In Pro Tools, it's always ins on top of outs. So forget about patch bays for right now. But what we're doing is we're connecting the output here of the send to the input here of this track. And like, that's what you really have to remember, is that an output always goes to an input. An input never goes to another input, or an output never goes to another output. The output always goes to an input. So that's what happens here. So with this one, now I can change my reverb sound on this voice.
1.
Oh yeah, but just remember, AJ, Pro Tools and patch bays are not the same. Patch bays are patch bays. Pro Tools is Pro Tools, and all the DAWs, the input is on top of the output. Input is on the top of the output, but they're not connected to patch bays. So you have to disconnect that stuff in your brain. I know it's tricky because we just learned about patch bays, and we're going to be talking about patch bays again tomorrow. But you have to really, they're separate things. You got to separate them out. And so, in every DAW you have, IO, it's always in above the out. I is on top of the output, but not for patch bays. All right, so with this here, I can change the reverb sound.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And you can hear how much this changes.
11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
By just clicking around in here.
11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
And you
12.
hear how different this sounds with all these different room plug settings on it. But it's all still going through here. The reverb is over here on this one here. So let me put on like a kind of a big one here.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, cool. So that sounds good there. So what we're going to do here is, the cool thing about this is anything that I want to send to this reverb, I'm going to move the reverb over here next to my master. Anything I want to send to this reverb, we can send to the reverb. So, like for example, right now I've got my vocal going to the reverb, but I can also take my drums and go to the reverb by setting up my send right here. So I click on the send out, go to bus, 15 and 16. Now I adjust this one. So let's listen to the drums.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1.
So right now the drums are completely dry. They don't have any reverb on them. So let's turn this up to get reverb to the drums.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, there we go. So we can turn this up and down so we can hear that reverb on the drums. Let's listen to the drums by themselves. No reverb. Lots of reverb. No reverb. Lots of reverb. If I want to, I can go back to this page over here, and let's make these drums like the super high drums I was messing around with before. I'm going to right click on them. I'm going to go to Elastic Properties and put them up to 5. There's the original, but it doesn't have anything to do with my reverb. The reverb is on the track. So Anthony says, can this be done with compression or to create parallel compression? Yes, this is how you would do parallel compression in Pro Tools. If your compressor does not have a dry, wet knob, this is how you would do it. We are going to talk about that. So if you want to explore it and mess around with it, I would recommend that. But you can also hold off on that until we get to it. But it's up to you. If you want to go exploring it, you can. But we are going to talk about parallel compression using these techniques. But yes, the answer is yes. This is kind of how you would do parallel compression. Okay. So, but before, I don't want to go too far into that. I don't want to talk about parallel compression today because I don't want other people who don't know what parallel compression is to get confused. So I want to hold off on that until another time. So here's my drums. I can pull this down so there's no reverb, and I pull it up so there is lots of reverb, right? Same thing with my talking.
9, 10, 11, 12.
I hold down shift and I click on the little send over here and it pulls it up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So here's this. Pull it up like this.
11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And there we go.
7, 8, 9.
Okay, and that's how we can send stuff around in Pro Tools. So this here is, let's go ahead and talk about how to set up my how to do this one more time. But before we do that, before we go through all the steps, because I've got them all listed out actually, so it should be foolproof. The solo safe here, we talked about solo safe a little bit in class the other day when we were talking about the Audient. But this reverb, anytime you make an aux channel in Pro Tools, you should probably solo safe it. The solo safe it is I hold down my command key and I click on the solo key. So hold down command, click solo. Let me just show you here. My command key is right here. Hold that down and then click the solo key and it grays it out. See what I just did on my screen here? It made it grayed out. And if I click it again, it ungrays it out. See that? And then Keith says, do you use the buses only for reverb and delay? The answer is no. No, what are you talking about? What is that? Is there a short... Siri, get out of here. What are you talking about? Get out of here. The thing is, Keith says, do you use the buses only for reverb and delay? And the answer is no. You use the auxes for lots of different things, not just reverb and delay. We're just using it for reverb and delay today, just to keep it simple. Okay. T says, I'm going to try to study all this tonight and maybe create my first Pro Tools song over the weekend. Awesome. But we can use this with more importantly than creating a new song, let's work on doing the mix. Work on your project with the mix. Although you can, I mean, obviously work on a new song, but that's what the project is for, is to kind of go over the stuff so you don't have to worry about making something from scratch. You can work on a mix. And we're not going to talk about it today because we're already going pretty over. We're going to do it tomorrow. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. And I'll record it while we're talking about it tomorrow if I can. I'm not sure how I would do that in school, actually. But so here we've got this. So
1, 2, 3, 4,
we can hear,
6, 7, 8, 9.
I can adjust my reverb
12. 1, 2, 3, 4,
amount here and here.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4,
Okay. So we got this here.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. And we've got this here. So this is how we can send this stuff over to our reverb. So we set up one reverb, but we can send multiple tracks to that one reverb. All right, cool. So let's talk about this for a second. Let's just go back over this. Let me go ahead and I'm going to stop this recording. I'm going to stop right there. Actually, no. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it one more time, where we're going to do it with the notes here. Let me go ahead and turn this off. No send. If you want to get rid of anything, you just click on this arrow. You click no send. There we go. Boom. Okay. So what I'm going to do is on the notes, let's go through this step by step. It's all right here in your notes. So check this out. To send a reverb to a track, first of all, you create a stereo aux track. Step number 1, create a stereo aux track and name it reverb. Put a reverb plugin on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, create a new track. Boom, boom, boom. Aux track here. Aux track, and we're going to call this one reverb. Boom. Okay, so we got this stereo aux track here called reverb. I'm going to put a reverb on the track itself. So go here to my reverbs and go to deverb here. It's got a little room on it already, so I'm not going to touch it. You can set that up however you want. Then number 2 is set up the input on the aux track to bus 1 and 2. Remember, it's a stereo bus. It's a stereo aux track, so it needs a stereo bus 1 and 2. Boom. Set up the input here. There we go. Set up the input. Step number 3, decide which track you want to send to the reverb. So we can send a snare, we can send the toms, whatever. We can send our vocal in this case here. So I'm going to decide which ones I want to. I want to send this one and this one to my reverb. Utilize the sends, not the output of the tracks. Bus 1 and 2. So use the same bus as in step number 2. So we're going to use the send. So I decided which ones I want to do. We're going to go to this one here. We're going to go to bus 1 and 2. Boom. And I can just go ahead and turn it up if I want or not. I'm going to leave it down for now. And then I go over here to this one and same thing. Go to go bus 1 and 2. Boom. There we go. There's that. And then set the send amount for each track. So you can hit play.
1, 2, 3.
And you can set the send amount for each one, how much reverb you want.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I can hold shift to pull up both of my things at once.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2,
There we go.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, cool. If you want to see everything here in your mix window, you can actually go up here to view, mix window views. No, where is it? Under expanded track sends. And just go and click on all or none or whatever, or each one individually. I'm just going to do one at a time right now. And now you can see there's a fader for each send.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
It's not quite as nice as this fader here. This fader here, it does really well. And then Charles says, how do you print to audio track? We are not going to go over that today. I want y'all to work on this first before worrying about how to print to an audio track. Printing to an audio track, if you want to go there and do it, you can try to figure it out. But I don't want to go into it today because it's going to throw people way off because we're using a different way to use these tracks. So it's a very different thing. But we will talk about it in a couple of weeks. We got to get there. It's like little baby steps. Okay. So there you go. But I mean, I'm sure there's we could talk about it, but we're not talking about it here. Not right now. Because it's more advanced stuff. So we got to walk before we can run. All right. So that's using busing and routing all this stuff for this. Yeah, cool. Let's go ahead and stop this recording.